All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the June 9th, 2025 Anacortes City Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Hoagland, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Fantini, Mr. Young,
Here.
Mr. Walters,
Here.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath,
Here.
Ms. Moulton,
Here.
Mr. McDougall, Ms. Hubick. Thank you.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Young?
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Fantini.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Ms. Moulton to excuse Mr. Fantini. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton?
I would like to make a motion to excuse Mr. McDougall and Ms. Hubick. Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Ms. Cleveland McGrath to excuse Ms. Hubick and Mr. McDougall. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first up, announcements and committee reports. I've got a few announcements, and I'm going to start with fiber, good and bad, I think, or good and others. I am one of the newest fiber customers of Anacortes Access Fiber as of this past week, and I'm very excited. And I pointed out because in 2015, so 10 years ago, I was invited on a trip as a council member as the _1 skeptic probably of the fiber project to go to Sandy, Oregon and look at how a municipal fiber network works. And I think we did it right. Part of the skepticism sometimes helps, but I think we really did it right, and happy to report that I'm a very happy customer. So, but with that, we had a bit of an outage over the weekend, and I'll have Ms. Shu report on that one. Ms. Shu.
Thanks, Mayor, Council, and members of the audience. So Access Anacortes Fiber Internet really, the way that we think we differentiate ourselves is that we are local, we're fast, and we're reliable internet. And so if any of those premises are not met, it's like a personal affront to our team. On Friday, we had a number of customers who experienced an internet outage, and it was due to a technical issue. Our DHCP server, which manages the assignment of IP addresses, basically had a disruption. And so it was going to our edge router, but it was creating like a cycle, so it was not able to assign IP addresses. And this ended up basically kind of crashing the system. Our team was on it, and I was here at 11 p.m. Friday night. Staff were here till 1:30, and then we were back at it like 5 o'clock in the morning, starting, continuing to try and get the issue resolved. The service was fully restored on Saturday afternoon, and we had some kind of fits and starts in that process, but we've learned a lot, and we are doing technical debriefing to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I mean, sometimes these things happen, but it's not something that we want to happen. So just wanted to report out to the council and the community about it. I was very appreciative of having the ability to have the new mass notification system, and we'll continue to work on that as well. There was notifications that were going out on our website, on the via email, text, or voicemail. I didn't send one at 1 a.m. I didn't think anybody would appreciate a phone call at 1 a.m. And that we also had updates through Facebook. I had a lot of interaction with the community over Facebook, monitoring that over the weekend, and just really appreciate the support. I think that people don't realize that it's somebody here in Anacortes that's responding to every single one of those, and the minute they realize, they're like, oh, thanks. And so people were very gracious, and I do appreciate that, but we will strive to do better. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Young?
can I add to that just a little bit? I happen to be out and about in the city, and one of the customers, of course, was at one of the shops, and they mentioned that their internet was out. and they were on commercial. But what they were grateful about was the response from the city. They were grateful about the information, and then I think they were told to reboot their router or something like that. But you know, they totally understood it. No one likes being out, but they also were very appreciative of the city and its approach to them and the issue. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Next, I'd like to thank, quite a few folks from Public Works and some other departments for volunteering Waterfront Festival over the weekend. That was a great success. And then Friday, myself, Ms. Moulton, Ms. Cleveland McGrath, Mr. Walters, Mr. Fantini attended the North Star Symposium, the first North Star Symposium convening. All I can say about that, there was a lot of great information there, and it was a wonderful success, and I always learn something at those. Council, since I think everybody here was there, if anything to add to that one?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the keynote address, the afternoon keynote, because there were two, by Greg Colburn, a UW professor who wrote Homelessness is a Housing Problem, was, I think, really useful and impactful. His takeaway, or the takeaway from his keynote, I think, is that we have an extraordinarily low vacancy rate, especially rental vacancy rate in Anacortes and in Skagit County, and as he related, it was the lowest of the 100 cities on his book tour. And the import of that is, if you have an extremely low vacancy rate, your housing market is in crisis, and ultimately that leads to a significant explosion in homelessness. I think his quote was, the light is blinking red for us, and we have time to deal with the problem. We have maybe a couple of years to deal with the problem, but then it will catch up to us, and then we will be dealing with a problem like Seattle is dealing with in their downtown. And so I think it was very much a cautionary tale. It was particularly, I think, impactful for the elected officials in the room, and I suggested that we bring Mr. Colburn back to speak at a future session, especially one that is more targeted at all the members of the public that need to hear that message.
Yeah, I think Skagit County 1% to 2% at the highest for vacancy rate, and so pretty amazing.
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton.
I just have a quick thing to add. Is one of the things that he emphasized is that homelessness is a problem unlike many others that can be solved in our lifetime, that we have the resources, that we've seen it done for veterans with a program that reduced veteran homelessness by about 50%, that we have the resources, we have the knowledge, and that is something that is actually possible. So that was a good takeaway for me.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
since we're all making comments. Yeah, and I, the thing that I took away from it was the fact that, you know, nonprofits are not going to fix the problem alone. For-profit construction is not going to solve the problem alone, but we need all of it. We need to be able to streamline the permitting process. We need to make sure that we have clear development codes so that when folks are interested in building, they understand from the beginning what is permitted and what will be allowed, and that they can have a predictable timeline of how they, from interest to construction, that they can get it done. And the importance of, using all of our resources. For-profit construction still helps the housing crisis. Nonprofit construction is incredibly important because we will always have a portion of our population that will need either permanent subsidized housing, but we've got to make sure that we turn on the spigot for all types of housing to be built.
Right. Part of that meeting included in the morning a joint meeting with the 4 cities in Skagit County. The councils were all convened, and point that out to the public because eventually within the next couple months, council will be looking at an ILA. The North Star Group is a fairly informal declaration by the mayors of the city and the county commissioners with signatures, and that's it. So trying to formalize the organization a little bit more sometime in the future, so council will have that coming up. Okay, next up, a reminder, Anacortes High School and Capsana High School graduation parade is Tuesday, June 10th, 3:30. That'll start forming up. It's a fairly quick parade, 3rd through 17th Street. And then this weekend, Bark in the Park, Saturday, June 14th, 2 to 5 p.m. at Storvik. It's a local event all about the dogs, so join us for dog contests, vendors, prizes, and fun at the park. And then also it's the 250th birthday of the United States Army on Saturday, and Father's Day Sunday. All right, next up, Housing Affordability Community Services Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
The HACS committee met on Thursday at 9 a.m., and we had Sandy from the Housing Authority join us, and we talked in detail about the Bayview property and the different subsidies and tax credits that are currently keeping the rents affordable for the tenants. And it's very complicated, so I won't go into a lot of detail about this, but there is an effort by them to bring all the properties under the same tax credit umbrella to simplify reporting and administration, and to also keep fairness among all the tenants in the way that they're charged, and to keep it, just to get it uniform will just make everything simpler and easier for everyone involved. Another thing we talked about was the CDBG grant, the Community Development Block Grant. There is potentially an additional $380,000 that will be available in low-interest loans for soft costs of projects. So that's something that we may look at for funding for the Olson Building. We talked about at that time, the upcoming North Star Symposium, and we discussed with Brett from Salvation Army the cold weather shelter and the Salvation Army request for $10,000. In the past, they've been given more money, but they have figured out through very careful management how to get equal effectiveness from $10,000 than they were getting from $20,000 when they would rent a block of rooms at a motel. But when they use this money for 2-night stays for people in need, and they combine that with case management and ongoing contact, that they find that they've had very good luck in getting people into either short-term or long-term, more stable housing, so the individuals and families have had less need of the cold weather shelter. So they've done very admirable work in this way, and it was great to hear about that, how much they can do with half the money. And we talked a little bit about $900,000 that the county had applications for rental assistance and the distribution awards of that. And we also talked briefly about the Job Corps closing, and since that time, Job Corps is back operating again. But there were about 260 youth that were there. About 150 had left and needed suitcases and storage boxes for their things. Everything was in chaos, but they had 100 youth there and have reinstituted classes, and then also started getting some of those people back. But obviously extremely, extremely disruptive, but we're just glad that the program is running again for now. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask Mr. Young if you have any questions for the Housing Affordability and Services, because everybody else is on that committee. Any questions for?
No, just one point was, I think that Ms. Moulton indicated that, I think one of the last words that she said was that it's back on for now. And that kind of answered my question. Is still uncertainty. Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Planning Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Planning Committee met right before this meeting, Ms. Molden, Ms. Cleveland McGrath, and myself. First thing that we considered was a change to our square footage for permit exemption for structures like sheds. That's an adoption of our building code. Our adoption of the building code creates an exemption for structures under 144 square feet and then allows some reduced setbacks for such structures. So there was a suggestion that we increase the size of that permit exemption, but that creates some problems. If you increase the size such that you can create a garage as a permit exempt structure, then you may have access problems off of the street or alley. Potentially other issues because the garages frequently get converted into ADUs. And our perception is that it's actually not that difficult to get a building permit, in which case you can do a larger structure than 144 square feet for a shed, because a lot of the other requirements for a building permit that might apply for residents won't apply to a utility building like a shed. However, it would allow us to capture issues like construction too close to critical areas or in critical areas. So our, I think, unanimous recommendation is that we leave that alone and not make any change to the code as it is today. We also looked at a conflict in the city's adoption of the state building code and the zoning code with respect to different measures for permit timeline extensions. The planning director is simply going to apply the longer time period until such time as we amend the code to resolve any discrepancy, which certainly makes sense. And then we also talked about the potential for refunding permit fees under a bill that was passed in 2023 and directs the city to refund building permit fees and other permit fees in certain circumstances. It's a pretty narrow direction in that it applies only to permits that are applied for after January 1, 2025, and it doesn't apply to building permits after July 27th, 2025, because the legislature came back and amended the law and took building permits back out of it. But it is also the subject of the ordinance that we drafted and recommended and got a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission last fall that is still making its way here because it's it's waiting for an appeal hearing on the SEPA threshold determination. So that would be our opportunity to clear some of that up and adopt some of our own provisions to implement that how we want as soon as it gets in front of us. And then finally, we talked about the comp plan schedule, which I'm not going to go into in any detail now because we're going to have that later on in this agenda.
Mr. Young, any questions for the Planning Committee?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Port City Liaison Committee,
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Ms. Cleland McGrath might have to help me out here a little bit, but we met last Tuesday. We talked, I think, principally about our draft interlocal agreements for our Port City Event Center. They are very close to being buttoned up. I understand the Port Commission did not subsequently talk about them at their last meeting, but they will at their next meeting. We should probably schedule them on our agenda too, and we had a follow-up. I had a follow-up meeting with the city attorney where I suggested we just fill in a couple of the last blanks so that we all have the same sheet of music to look at and just make sure that that's in front of us so that we can get going and approve them. So we had just a little bit of discussion on the last finer points of those agreements. Then we also had a couple of updates from staff, including an update on the heavy haul of the nuclear reactors or whatever it is that we are assembling at the port.
They're not nuclear reactors.
We heard that people have been concerned that they may be nuclear reactors, and that the heavy haul route has all worked really quite well for all of that work. Was there anything else, Ms. Cleland-McGrath, that you recall from that meeting? Yeah, it was fairly straightforward.
They're large tanks, and appreciate the council and the city and port working together for that heavy haul route because it is creating jobs and generating a good economic activity for the city. Questions for the Port City Liaison Committee?
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Young?
I've got just enough information to let it go. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Public Safety Committee?
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Thank you. So on June 3rd, we had our public safety meeting. Mayor Miller was there, Councilmember Fantini, myself, and Chief Harris and Chief Floyd. So from a police perspective, Chief Floyd was able to report that we have filled the first of 5 levy positions, so that's really exciting for us. So we now have 4 vacancy positions still open. We've completed oral boards where we had about a half a dozen folks apply. So that is going fairly well. 2 of the people that we've hired are currently in the academy and should be graduating about the end of July. That being said, one of the topics that did come up was the fact that last year, for our budget, we decided to postpone the purchase of 3 vehicles because we hadn't hired those positions yet, and it just made sense not to have them sitting. But probably will be discussed further at our retreat on Thursday because the time to order is in October, and it takes about 9 to 12 months for them to be delivered. The other thing we discussed a bit about was the fact that CJTC, which is the Criminal Justice Training Commission, and that is where police officers go to be trained, had couple months ago decided to ban the type of guns that we had just purchased about a year ago. It was a common gun. It had been used by a number of municipalities, but there has been some reporting across the country, and then also an incident in Spokane at the CJTC program that it had, in theory, discharged. So, because of the fact that it has been banned from the training facilities in Washington State, we have since had to research and purchase a new type of gun, which we've purchased half. I think the next half will be purchased shortly. Requires the fact that, we are in the process of removing any of those guns that are currently being used by officers, and they have to do some training at the range and be checked off on the new guns. All should be completed probably mid-summer. So that's just a point of interest. Unfortunately, we've had to go buy another 35 guns, so there's 1 for each officer and 2 additional just to have, but I think it's important, in case anyone sees any reports on it, that we've handled it and we are diligently working to move forward on that issue. The other thing that was discussed was the fact that, as we all know, budgets are tight. The school district budget is tight also. We talked a little bit about our partnership with the school resource officer that currently is between the high school and middle school. So just we talked a little bit about the importance of it and moving forward, kind of if we should have further conversations with the school district about budgeting. But again, something that when we talk about the next year, 3, 5 years, might be in our conversation moving forward. Then, moving on to Chief Harris and the fire department, we have Anacortes High School graduate who has joined the fire department, just completed his academy and came back with lots of high compliments, so that was very exciting. And he's joined. We've also got a lateral paramedic, so we have currently 1 opening, and that is due to a resignation that happened about a month ago. So we talked a little bit about the $350,000 budget for a station remodel. The design work and engineering is going to be a little bit more expensive, so it will come to council in the near future. But all kind of in line there. We have provided to the boat builder $30,000 to start construction of our new fireboat, and we've also had the Port Security Grant funding for that $30,000 come through, so that's an exciting thing. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the SAFER grant and the 3 battalion chiefs, adding the 3 firefighters. The SAFER grant would possibly cover about 36 months of salary and wages. Chief Harris did a really nice summary of that for council to read. He sent it out on Friday, so I think kind of to prepare us for the retreat again. So I won't go too much further in there. So there you go.
Questions for Public Safety Committee?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young?
I wanted to take a moment to commend our the team that we have in public safety. In particular, I wanted to commend the chief and also his team and staff, the mayor. You know, June is Pride Month, and we have a big parade coming up, and it's a lot of activities and a lot of people, and fully expecting a lot of work within it, and it's just really a celebration of people. And so, but there are also those elements that you're not sure about in our world right now. And so to allay some of those concerns, I reached out to the chief, Fuller, as well as the mayor and others, to kind of talk about it, to make sure that everyone that's coming to our city feels safe, that the rules and laws of our town are enforced, and they were just extraordinarily open to and being helpful. John Lunsford, I've reached out to him a number of times. He's just stellar. And it made me feel better about what's to come, because it's a lot of uncertainty. We hear about things happening all over the world, Ontario, so many other places. And we just want people to come to Anacortes, feel safe, love the moment, share in love with everybody that's here, regardless of where you are. We have a wonderful city. And what I feel good about is that our enforcement, as well as our administration, have assured me that they have our backs, so to speak, and that we will do what is necessary to ensure that all people that come to our town feel safe and are safe. And so I'm very thankful for that, and I'm thankful to the team for allowing me to voice those concerns and to hear their response. So thank you very much.
All right. Any other announcements or committee reports I might have missed? All right, we'll move on to item 4. This is public comment. Opportunity for any member of the public wishing to address the council on anything that's not on our agenda. And I don't think we had anybody sign up. I don't have anybody online with raised hands. No raised hands here in City Hall. All right, we'll move on to item 5, our consent agenda, items 5A through C. Council.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
I move we approve the consent agenda, items 5A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Ms. Cleveland McGrath to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are on to item 6, item 6A. This is a closed record decision hearing. That's a closed record decision hearing on the Curtis Wharf Shore Power and Pump Out Port of Anacortes project, and this is a discussion item with possible action. But Mr. Coleman is going to kick this off. And again, closed record decision basically means that only parties that are already participated in this can continue participating in this with no new information. I think I got that right. The attorney will correct me if I didn't. Mr. Coleman.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, members of the public. My name is John Coleman. I'm the Director of the Planning, Community, and Economic Development Department. And tonight we're going to be talking about a shoreline substantial development permit application from the Port of Anacortes for a project on the Curtis Wharf. As the mayor mentioned, this is a closed record hearing or closed record decision. Only the information that's been presented so far to the Planning Commission and that is in your pack is what can be considered. So we're not going to be presenting any new information to the council tonight. So if you have follow-up questions, we'll just try to be careful to make sure that we're answering from the information in the packet and not going outside of what information has already been presented. That being said, this is a fairly straightforward permit application, and spoiler alert, the Planning Commission did make a recommendation for approval. So I'm going to go through sort of the procedural and the procedural aspects and the project itself as quickly as I can to move this along. So the port's requesting to add shore power on the Curtis Street Wharf and to add a commercial pump out. So the shore power is electricity to power boats while they're moored at the Curtis Street Wharf. That would allow them to not use their diesel listers and generators, thereby reducing the amount of fossil fuels being used, reducing their costs, and improving air quality, improving noise, reducing noise in the area. In addition, there's the request to also have a pump out, so that would be that they were able to pump the effluent from the ships, and not ballast, but from their black tanks. So that's your typical toilet and shower type use into the city sewer system. And so what we have up here on the slide is the location of Curtis Street Wharf at the end of O Avenue and near 2nd Street. The city and the port recently did a interlocal agreement to allow the road improvements in that area leading out to Curtis Street Wharf to allow for this type of use at the site. A little bit about the area. Zoning is manufactured and shipping. It's the same as the comp plan designation, and it's urban marine environment per the Shoreline Master Program designation. And you can see on this map here the location just at the end of O Avenue. I already talked a little bit about what this project is, so a commercial blackwater pump out system and mobile shore power. There is no increase in vessel usage being proposed, so I think that's important to know. It really is just making the facility a little bit cleaner. Here are some photos of the area, always helpful to remind people of the area that we're talking about. And it's always nice to look at pictures of the waterfront. The project history, we received the application in February. We had the open record pre-decision public hearing on May 28th, so very recently we were able to turn this around quickly and bring it to the City Council for their decision based on the Planning Commission's recommendation. The staff recommendation was to approve with conditions. It's not anticipated to result in any loss of shoreline functions. It's not changing the use. It's a rather light change, an accessory change to the ongoing use of this Curtis Street, or the Curtis Wharf. Included in this slide, the next several slides, are the actual recommended conditions. I'm not going to go over those. They're mostly boilerplate. There are a few that are specific to working out conditions with the city sewer department to make sure that billing and metering is all taken care of. And so some of those just contractual obligations. And with all these types of permits, there's a 5-year permit authorization. So if it's not completed within 5 years, then they need to reapply. And that's not a condition. That's just a statement of what our code always says. But we like to include it in our recommendations so everybody knows what the timeframes are allowed. Are there any questions? I went through that pretty quick. We see this as fairly straightforward, and the Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval.
And I'll make a quick comment because you said metering and billing is one of the conditions. I just want the public to be reassured. We've been looking at this for a long time. There's capacity. I know that's often a question that gets asked for the wastewater treatment. We've run the numbers. All right, questions, Council?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton and then Mr. Walters.
So that is one of my questions about the metering and the charges. Is there like a general facilities charge, hookup charge that the port will need to pay based on the size of the pipe? Will they pay based on gallons of wastewater?
So this one's actually going to have a flow meter sample point. And the conditions prior to issuance of the sewer connection permit, they'll enter an agreement in accordance with Chapter 13 of the municipal code to outline all of those. Yes, it will be your general facility charges based on estimated amounts, and then they'll be metering to know how much we're actually accepting. I think there also something in here about, they're testing it to make sure that nothing weird is getting into our system, negatively having a negative impact on our sewer facilities.
So just out of curiosity, are the rates subject to like negotiation, or will those be in line with other rates that already exist for users of that, whatever magnitude that is?
I'm imagining it's all spelled out in the code.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Sweatman?
Yeah, just to fill in that gap. So the rates for industrial discharge users are based on the volume and the waste strength. And there's a formula that's laid out in the code that tells us, based on those two data points, how many ERUs or equivalent residential units they have to purchase. And the price for each equivalent residential unit is laid out in the unified fee schedule, so that'll be consistent. So,
Mr. Walters?
Thank you. This is a permit application that gets a type 4 review, including a neighborhood meeting, planning commission review, public hearing, public comment period, and city council review and approval for this pipe. Because it is more than $1 million in valuation. Do we know what the valuation is? Is that in the record?
I'm looking back to Libby Grage to see if she has that information.
If not, maybe we could get it later. But I think we've beat this horse significantly for the pipe and big power plug that we're installing for all this process.
We think we have enough, we might have a number? Okay, sure, we'll get that out there.
Hi, Libby Grage, Planning Department. $2.5 million is the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, council?
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Thank you. And this question could be beyond the closed record decision hearing, but do we expect to see another pump out and shore power, some similar application at any of the other
I don't
peers?
have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton?
One more question. The port, it says here, the port is constrained for construction by current uses of the pier and grant funding. So we know that grant funding is questionable right now. I don't know if that grant funding has been secured or not, just out of curiosity, or if we know what the amount of that is. I might be getting a little into the weeds here. So maybe we can talk about that later. Just curious. Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, the next typical step would be a motion. Council wants to entertain one.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters?
We received no public comments on this application?
Correct.
Okay. I move to approve Shoreline Substantial Development Permit SDP 2025-0001, subject to the conditions of approval recommended by the Planning Commission as they're written in the staff report dated May 22nd.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walters and a second by Mr. Young to approve the substantial development permit as presented. Additional discussion? Mr. Hoagland, vote please.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, and look forward to that project getting underway. And next up is item 7A. This is the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update, and this is a progress update discussion item. And Mr. Coleman is already there opening up the slide deck. So, Mr. Coleman, when you're ready.
All right, thank you again, Mayor, Council. So what we're here today to talk about is our ongoing 2025 Periodic Comprehensive Plan Update. And always, when I talk about this comp plan update, I like to plug our website. If you would just go to www.planacortes.com or www.planacortes.org, it takes you to all the meeting materials, much of which are referenced in this slide presentation. So I'm going to kind of go all the way back to the beginning, but I'm going to breeze through it because I know the City Council knows all about this. But what are we doing? We're updating our comprehensive plan. This is a required update for a 20-year planning period. We're required by the state to update our comprehensive plan and development regulations every 10 years with a 20-year horizon. The elements of the comp plan that we're touching is all of them, including land use, housing, transportation, economic development, environment conservation, parks, recreation, and open space, and we're creating a new climate element. While we're going through this update, we're also required to make sure that our development regulations are up to date and in conformance with our comprehensive plan. So we're also proposing changes to the development regulations as well as the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, we're required to do this every 10 years per the Growth Management Act. One of the big things that we do during this, what we call the 10-year periodic update, is we make sure that our comprehensive plan and development regulations are consistent with the local, not only our local policies, but with the state policies. So there's been a lot of changes, as I think our council is well aware of, at the state legislature level that requires us to make updates to our comprehensive plan, and those trickle down to our development regulations as well. For example, accessory dwelling units. And so we're doing all of those updates now, and I'm going to get into mention what in specific we need to address per the state. Also, is we do this to do these updates to make sure that we can appropriately plan for future growth. And that's our 20-year growth projections that we started with early in this project. And I'll spare everybody the gory details of the process that we go through with the state and the Skagit Council of Governments to allocate population and employment projections for each jurisdiction. But what that leads to is us then taking those projections, doing a land capacity analysis, and making sure that we've got the land available within our city limits and the proper zoning to manage, to accommodate our future population and employment growth, which we did several months ago and presented those findings to the City Council. Incidentally, what we found is we have enough land in city limits and in our existing urban growth area that we do not need to expand our urban growth area to accommodate our future 20-year population growth or employment growth. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that is going to look. We did also make one UGA expansion request that is not for population or employment growth. We included several city-owned parcels adjacent to the Anacortes community forest lands for inclusion into those would become part of the forest lands with the exception of one which would continue, which is another city-owned property that we use for city purposes. And the idea is we wanted to bring those into the urban growth area, then we can annex them, and then we can manage our own lands that we own, instead of having to go to the county for permitting on city-owned property, which is tricky. As I mentioned,
Mr.
we're-
Walters?
What's the one exception in your list of UGA expansion properties?
The former pit just south of, I have a map here.
Is it currently leased?
So
19056?
32574.
Ah,
And it's this narrow one at the top left of this slide. And that was a former pit that was given to the city after the pit was
okay. All right, thank you.
pitted out. So one of the reasons that we're doing this is to update, to make sure we're consistent with some state law changes. And so two of the more significant ones is House Bill 1220 that was passed in 2021, which which says that jurisdictions no longer just get to update the urban growth areas to be to accommodate their future residential growth. We also need to look at all housing types by population. Sorry, not by population, by employment level, income level. And so that's where we talk about area median income a lot, and there's several tiers that we need to make sure that we have enough housing in the 0 to 30 AMI and 30 to 50 and up the scale. And so we can't just say any longer, not that we ever did this, but a community couldn't just say, well, we've got enough room for all of our population in single family homes. What the state legislature has said through HB 1220 is that you need to provide a variety of housing because not everybody can afford single family homes. So you need to be sure that you're giving the opportunity for developers to construct different types for different AMI levels. And so we've done that, and as part of this process. It also requires that we address racially disparate impacts. So we had a racially disparate impact analysis that is also on the Anacortes page, and we were fortunate we didn't find in our existing comprehensive plan or development regulations analysis of those that there was any language in there that was causing racially disparate impacts. They did recommend minor changes to make sure that it's consistent with current state law and policies and language. So there are some minor changes addressing racially disparate impacts, but nothing jarring. Also, we needed to address House Bill 1181, which passed in 2023, and that's the Climate Planning and Environmental Justice bill. That's what's requiring us to have our new climate element. And as part of that climate element, we've done several measures to build up a background for that element and do a lot of outreach related to climate and environmental justice. And I'll touch on those briefly later. I already mentioned that this process is intended to make internal consistency, be sure that our development regulations and all the chapters and elements of our comprehensive plan are consistent with each other. We're also required to update our critical areas regulations. So we have begun a contract that the council approved last month, I believe, with a consultant to review our critical areas regulations as they're written to see if they are consistent with the current best available science. And so they've just begun that work. The critical areas regulations do not, while we would love to have them reviewed and any changes made at the same time as the comprehensive plan and development regulations, which are all due at the end of the year, it seems likely that our critical areas regulations review and any potential updates will happen in next year. We have a year's grace period to review the critical areas ordinance. So those will not likely be done at the end of December 2025 as the comprehensive plan and development regulations updates will be. Okay, so we also included the council remembers you passed a resolution adopting a docket. That docket included several changes that you wanted to see potentially happen, at least studied and reviewed, and see if we need to make any changes to very specific areas. Some of those include format and organization. One of them includes the 2021 docket items that did not get finished in 2021 and are still out there. So we're shepherding those through the system. The future land use map amendments, there were some requested, some property owner initiated ones, as well as the city initiated one, which I already mentioned, and that's including several properties into the urban growth area. And then the development regulations were some of the requests that were made were to streamline permitting review, the marine supply block, a review of street standards, housing code amendments. Those are largely related to our housing action plan, and we've made a lot of progress on those already, and many more, including citizen-requested changes to specific development regulation sections. And we have not gotten into any development review changes aside from things that were already in the housing action plan, but we'll be getting to those soon. It's the timeline that I'll present here will bear out. The comprehensive plan itself we're addressing in 2 phases. So in each element we have goals and policies, and those are the goals and policies are the guiding goals and policies, what we're aspiring for in each of our elements. So, and then also in each element will be the background information that kind of fleshes out those goals and policies. So phase 1 of our review of the comp plan was to update the goals and policies. And we've gone through an info gathering and analysis process, lots of public outreach, the climate team work on creating goals and policies in the new climate element. And we went through each of the elements and presented at least 2 times with each element to the Planning Commission. One time for just an introduction and a meeting where we, of course, had conversations, and then a second public hearing where people, after they've had a time to review it, and it's actually been out there for a little while, had the opportunity to make public comments. Now, in general, during this entire comprehensive plan cycle, we've had public comments open. So we're just accepting public comments constantly, but we have specific public hearings on specific things to get some guided direction on those in specific. But anybody can submit comments anytime for a little while still. So we're through having public hearings on all of the goals and policies, and so now that we've got feedback on those, we're able to flesh out the rest of the comprehensive plan elements. We're in the process of completing those, and we anticipate having a full comprehensive plan draft available in July. And that's good news. Then we'll be able to start, once we have that out, we'll then continue to work on our draft development regulations. So having meetings at the Planning Commission level again for those development regulation updates and public hearings. And then we'll be getting actual recommendations from the Planning Commission. We've been getting their feedback, and they've been recommending amendments to the draft goals and policies, but they haven't said, like, yes, we're done with this. Here is our recommended document. We haven't got to that phase yet. And then once we do get through that process, they'll make a recommendation to the City Council for your review and adoption. So the comp plan and the development regulations are intended to be consistent. So what we want, what I've done in the past is to have the development regulations and the comprehensive plan approved on the same day, but in different ordinances. And the City Council will have more than one touch at that. We do encourage, once we get our draft out in July, all of the public will then have the opportunity to to review the complete comprehensive plan document, and we certainly encourage the city council to look at it and keep up, and that way, when it comes time in, we're thinking more like October or November to bring council something that the Planning Commission is fully reviewed, you're up to speed. It's kind of our hope. We're up against a time frame here. And oh, look, here's our timeline right here.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
And that's what we talked about in the committee meeting earlier today, that per the schedule, we have not very many weeks left at the end of the year for council's review. So if we did start in July, as the planning director suggests, simultaneous while the planning commission is reviewing the draft, we would be well positioned to make good use of our time when it does get to us later. And we liked that in lieu of going beyond the end of the year for adoption.
Thank you. And that would be much appreciated. So what you see here, we're right at the beginning of phase 2, and the city council had wanted to have check-ins on this process, so that's where we are today. They're on the chart here, the city council check-in circled in yellow. I think we didn't make the one in January, and that one has been moved on to now after it's at a logical point. We've gotten through all of the goals and policies, and so before a full draft, but we're checking in with the council now. This is the future land use map of where we're requesting to include our currently city-owned properties into our urban growth area, so we can then include them into the city later. I mentioned this already, but this is a good look at the map. Most of these have some sort of covenants on them that when it was given to us or purchased from the property owners, that they wanted to make sure that it was continued to be used for Anacortes forest lands and not for future development. So we do not intend to use these for development or housing or commercial type use. And that's what we've told the county. So currently the county is going through their comprehensive plan update process. And as part of that application, they are reviewing our request to include these lands into the urban growth area. Cities do not get to choose what lands go in the urban growth area. They have to do all their homework and demonstrate that they need that land to be in their urban growth area. And then the county reviews the city's work and makes a decision whether or not whether or not that urban growth area is expanded, and that'll be on county maps. So you probably recall you passed a resolution supporting this urban growth area expansion for non-residential and non-commercial use. A little bit about our public engagements. Again, it's all available on our 2025 Comprehensive Plan Update webpage. Anacortes.org is where you can go to find that. We have a subscription email list. So far, we have over 171 subscribers. We send alerts on a regular basis whenever we have a planning commission meeting or a release or something in project-related news. We plan to send a direct notification to city residents and property owners to announce the availability of the full draft comprehensive plan. That way, it's widely disseminated and not expecting people to just know that it's happening by visiting websites or hearing about it at city council and planning commission meetings. We have a Facebook page. We have over 670 followers. So we post information there. But I think one of the things that people appreciate most is the notices that we've been putting out in the Our Town newsletter. So we've had information about the comp plan update in 3 issues already, and hopefully we did receive good feedback on those, and we do have some indication that people are seeing that and learning about this process through that. So whatever we can do to get the information out, the better. Here's some of our key project documents. These are again all on the Anacortes page. List here all of the resolutions that the City Council has already approved, establishing the climate policy team, which we call the climate team. I mentioned 3172, supporting the urban growth area expansion, and 3161, establishing the docket, and 3156, importantly, establishing our public participation plan. And all of these last slides where I talk about our public outreach, engagement, and plans to engage the public are in that document. Plus many, many, many other documents, including many written comments that we've received to date, are all available there. This is an overview of all of the things that we've done as far as public engagement. I'm going to go through those separately in each of these slides. So we've had 3 open houses, one back in June last year, almost a year ago today. That was our kickoff one, and well attended, over 100 people at that one. And then in October, we had a second community public open house, and that was again close to 100 people. And then we had one back in March, and we still had really good participation at those. We did a lot of pop-up tabling, so just going to community events. We've seen many of the City Council wander through those too, so we appreciate your support coming by and getting the word out about all of this update. And we certainly appreciate Council's continuing interest and participation in this process. And I outline that a little bit later, how much the City Council has seen this already. So as far as public engagement, the climate team had 4 meetings talking to craft the goals and policies and to learn about the background of the climate element. Our consultant presented lots of background information and mapping about that. And thank you to our climate team members, all listed here, one of which is sitting right in front of us. Councilperson Moulton, thank you. Public engagement, we also had a listening session. We know that the climate element is going to have an impact potentially on businesses in town, and we're very concerned about what our local industries would feel about this. So we specifically requested and invited industry members to come and talk with us and our consultants to hear their concerns and to give them explain to them what we're doing so that everybody understands why we're doing this, and clearing the air to make sure that they understand that we're not trying to do something to harm their business. We want to be partners with our community, and they are part of our community. So we had a marine and waterfront focused one in December, and then we quickly realized let's cast a wider net and do more industry focused, and those were well attended. And then have given several presentations to other local organizations, getting the word out about this comprehensive plan update process. The Planning Commission itself has had 19 meetings where they've addressed something related to the comp plan update. Many of those have been public hearings. We've had 9 public hearings so far, and that doesn't really even, 4 of those 19 have been public hearings. That doesn't really reflect the true number, because every element's had its own public hearing, but we combined them together on the same day. So 4 of those meetings have been included public hearings, but we've had a public hearing for all of our elements so far. And then the City Council this would be number 10, touch on the comp plan update, including these 4 resolutions that you've passed. And this does not include things like bringing you contracts where we talk about consultants doing work for this process. And I'll wrap up here with our next steps. So later this week on Wednesday, the Planning Commission is going to be continuing to work on development regulations related to this update. We're focusing on accessory dwelling unit rules, and those are required changes, mostly required changes from the state. They passed a House bill a couple years ago requiring us to make it easier for people to create accessory dwelling units. As I mentioned earlier, we plan to release the full comprehensive plan draft for public review and comments in July. At that time, we'll open a public comment period of at least 30 days, and then we will be having public hearings at the Planning Commission. Depending on how that process goes, we'll probably be making some tweaks to the draft potentially, and having final public hearings at the Planning Commission before bringing it, the comp plan and development regulations, to the council in September or October or November. And that is probably longer than the 10 or 15 minutes I intended to go. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. And before I turn it over to council for questions, it's an asterisk item. Any member of the public want to ask any questions? Okay, come on up. As usual, state your name and city you live in, please, for the record.
Hi, Courtney Orrock, Anacortes. I just have a comment. When you release that for public, are you going to have kind of a track changes so we can tell what is new and what is not new?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So when we do changes, we do include everything in track changes, so we know what it looked like from the 2016 comprehensive plan update and the draft changes now. So they will be in track changes. Underline for new, strike through for what is proposed to be removed, and that's our standard way of doing it. But good question. Thank you.
All right, council.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
I think the recitation here of the public outreach for this process is significant. The document that's in our packet as well, the public engagement analysis, whatever that document is labeled, also does a nice job of documenting all of the steps that we have taken to engage with the public throughout this process. I think the forthcoming mailings will be important too, because they'll announce the release of a complete draft. Always giving somebody something to react to is sometimes more useful than simply asking, well, what might you want to see? The tabling exercises that are also described in that public engagement summary are also very worthwhile. Otherwise, you're sending people one-way information, right? A magazine, an article, a postcard, that kind of thing is an important step, but the tabling provides an opportunity to have a conversation with a member of the public who wants to know about that transportation facility that they don't have or that they want to improve, or some other aspect of our land use plan. And I think we are rightfully impressed by the amount of public participation we have accomplished this far, and we've still got 6 months to go. So I'm pleased with that. I think that once we get that complete draft, the July complete draft of the plan, there will be plenty for us to do, and I would encourage council members to start work on that early. The precise text of the language that gets updated in the plan will be important, and so when it reaches us, we'll assumedly want to make some changes, tweak some words, maybe change whole concepts, but at a minimum, we'll want to have read every word and go through it all. I'm not in favor of rushing, but I feel like we can probably accomplish it by the end of the year if we're diligent about it, and if we take that time in July to get that done. We also have a lot of pieces of it in the packet now, linked in the packet, that we could delve into. And I'd encourage everyone to find the time to start in on that.
All right, anything else?
Just one last thing. So you mentioned the tabling, and I feel bad that I haven't thanked and congratulated, maybe early, but Libby Grage has been doing almost all of the work on this. She's our planning manager. She's doing a stellar job. She prepared this slideshow for us today and helped me get up to speed to present to you. So without Libby, this would not happen, and she is the one-person wrecking crew working on this project.
Yeah, concur with that. I mean, all right. Well, thank you for that great update. And now it's time for item 7B. And 7B is a contract award of water treatment plant intake station condition assessment. It's a discussion item with possible action. It's like Mr. Nemeth has this one.
Yes,
Whenever
sir.
you're ready.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. I'm Terry Nemeth. I'm the Water System Manager. And before you, we have a contract for HDR to perform a condition assessment on the intake pump station at the water treatment plant. This station was built in the early 70s and is basically the lifeblood of the water treatment plant itself. Although the pumps have been replaced in 2013, 2014, and then I think 2 of them in 2019, but the structure has not been assessed for deficiencies or any type of failures. What I'm asking is for the council to approve this contract not to exceed, I'm going to try this one, $132,844.
All right, council, questions?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
A couple of years ago, we did a significant amount of work to put in a second raw water pipeline.
Correct.
So we've developed a lot of redundancy within the plant, but here's a remaining single point of failure.
The building itself is just a single point.
Are there other single points of failure that we have also not yet addressed?
I think we've addressed them all.
Are we sure?
Well, no. But let's hope. And I think through some of the diagnostic and the analysis that's going on, we've actually pinpointed some of the failure points.
Okay. Oh, well, I am definitely in favor of knocking out single points of failure and replacing them with redundant systems because it's...
That is correct.
Yeah, mission critical here.
Or in this, yeah, and in this case, I'm hoping we find out if the structure is starting to move or not, because we do have a failure point. There's a crack that's developing from the ramp to the structure. We don't think the structure is moving, but we don't have a lot of previous civil drawings or architectural drawings that show us what the base is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm in favor of moving this forward in order to evaluate that and potentially eliminate another single point of failure, but also in favor of identifying any other single points of failure and getting after all those.
We try to address them as they come.
That could be a little dangerous, though, right?
I don't mean as the failures come, as we recognize the failures.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right, anything else? All right. Motion, perhaps.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton.
I move that City Council authorize you to sign contract 25165 WTR 001 with HDR Engineering in the amount of $132,884 to perform the WTP intake pump station condition assessment.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Young to approve the contract as presented. Any additional discussion? Mr. Hoagland, vote please.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Ms. Moulton.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next item is item 7C. This is also a contract award, 17th Street Drainage Improvement Project design as a discussion item, possible action. And Mr. Esterholt is presenting tonight, so whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me come up here. This is for the 17th Street.
Little closer to the microphone, or make sure it's on. The green light.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. This is for the 17th Street Drainage Improvement Project. The city staff is requesting funding to move forward with financial design and permitting for the 17th Street Drainage Improvement Project. which has already been approved by the City Council and the Capital Facilities Plan. This project addresses a critical drainage ditch located east of Q Avenue and north of 17th Street. The ditch currently conveys stormwater from a large upstream basin, but suffers from chronic sediment buildup and vegetation overgrowth, which restricts flow and causes water to back up and surcharge on the Q Avenue during heavy rain events. Complicating matters, the ditch crosses property owned by the Port of Anacortes and the Anacortes School District under an existing easement. Once MJB initiates development in this area, the city will lose physical access to the ditch for routine maintenance, which makes it a long-term solution essential. To resolve these issues, the city staff proposes to replace the open ditch with a pipe storm system and relocate and extend the stormwater outfall farther into Fidalgo Bay. The current outfall terminates short of the shoreline and will interfere with the planned shoreline trail unless it's extended. This improvement will both support redevelopment of the area and protect functionality of the storm system into the future. The city has asked Osborne Consulting to put the scope of work together to complete design, permitting, and bid-ready documents. The total cost of this phase of work is $144,660.
All right, thank you.
Mayor
Questions? Mr. Walters.
Could you point to some of the features you just described? The length of the open ditch, the sediment basin, and
Yeah, so right here, oh, you want me to show you here on the map? Is that what you're getting at?
use the mouse, but also then make sure point your mouth toward the
Oh, okay.
microphone.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And mouse towards the map.
Yeah, all right. I'm
Mouth
gonna try to
towards the
do this
microphone,
here.
mouse toward the map.
So the ditch starts right about here and ends right here. And then the outfall is right here, and it just dumps out. My understanding, the trail is going to continue around. If we don't fix that outfall, it's just going to either wash away the trail or we'll have flooding issues. Once we get a pipe put in here, when MJB builds, we'll be able to put our Vector truck right here, and we can rod it and clean it out that way.
So that first segment between Q and R is open ditch, and then from R to Fidalgo Bay is already piped?
It's already hard piped, yes.
Okay, all right. And you said that there was a sediment basin that clogs up, is that right?
The ditch itself clogs up, and when
Oh,
it
the
clogs
ditch
up,
itself,
it gets
okay.
filled up with reed canary grass, and we get willows and stuff growing there. When it fills up, the water, it works as a dam, and then the water from Q can't go in there, so it just bubbles out right this catch basin right here.
Yeah, maybe when we clean that out, put up a big sign that says this is not a critical area.
The crews cleaned it out last year. We spent a lot of time out there getting it cleaned up, got the water flowing. This winter, we escaped any issues. I'm already seeing the reed canary grass grow back, so it's going to probably be worked on again here real soon.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate the explanation, and I think that this type of project is what we need to be doing to facilitate development in a variety of locations around town.
Yes.
It's much easier to get it done, getting ahead of it, rather than following up afterwards.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Clue McGrath.
Thank you. So just so I understand, it's piped from our avenue east, correct? But we're going to
Correct.
need to extend that pipe?
Right here is open ditch, so
Right.
it's just a ditch. So we're going to hard pipe this and then connect it here, and then it'll be just, one section of hard pipe.
Right, so the existing pipe, do we feel that is at capacity, like, is that large enough? It doesn't need to be
absolutely.
pulled up and redone?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's a
And the
30,
s- and the
36
slope
inch
is
pipe.
okay?
Yeah, yes.
So all we'll need to do is when we get near the shoreline, we'll have to extend that pipe?
Yeah, right here where the outfall is, we'd have to extend the pipe out. You see where this outfall, there's another outfall right here, and you can see how it comes out here. And it's usually underwater during high tides. This here we would extend out, I'm estimating to right about here, and then it would just dump out, and then it'd be out of our way when that trail goes through.
Okay, so we can, the existing pipe we have, we won't have to redesign, rebuild?
No.
We're just extending both directions?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
Will this new pipe be below the grade of the existing grade of our avenue?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Because there's a grade change there of, I don't know how much, but
Yeah, Yeah, I believe it'll be, yeah, the slope's fine. It'll be at grade right out. You won't see it there, if that's what you're asking.
Right. We're going to have to address that intersection, but if it were elevated, that could complicate some things.
That it could, yes.
Do you know how deep the pipe is, the existing pipe that's
I don't
east of
have
our-
that answer for you. Yeah, I don't know right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Assumedly, it's below the level of the existing R Avenue, though?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, that takes care of it. Thanks.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young?
No, you know, I guess my only concern, and this is probably beyond the scope of what we're talking about. I'm always worried a little bit when we have ditches and water quality going out into the bay. You know, and I'm hoping at some point, as we look into other areas, that we might be able to help and assist that water quality coming out.
So in the scope of work, I have put in there that we are looking into putting a treatment system there. We're going to look at that and see what the
Okay.
cost is and see if it's even feasible or if we got room to put it in there.
Well, you know, Aaron, you are fortuitous. I really like that. No, you know, it's just something that I honestly think as a city we have to look into as well, you know, because I guess where we're going now, especially water quality issues, water issues within itself, these are important things that in our quest to move forward, that we also make it a part of the package for us being able to move forward and do it responsibly. So, no, I really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks. Yep.
All right.
All right, any other questions?
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Young?
if there are no other questions, I move the City Council authorize the mayor to sign contract 25-166-STM-001 with Osborne Construction, Inc. in the amount of $144,660 to perform the design of the 17th Street Drainage Improvement Project.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Young, a second by Ms. Moulton to approve the contract as presented. Additional discussion? Mr. Hoagland, vote please.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath,
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Final item tonight on the written agenda is item 7D. This is amendment to interlocal agreement with the Washington State Department of Commerce for paper to digital permitting grant. And this is a discussion with possible action, and Mr. Coleman's already ready to go to talk about this one.
Good evening again, Mayor, Council. Again, this is an amendment to an interlocal agreement. That is why it is coming to the council for what is essentially a very simple change to a contract. So all we're doing is changing some deliverable dates so that we make sure that our contract delivery dates are consistent with what we've received so far, so we can bill and receive the full amount possible from the grant. So this is just moving some deliverable dates around to make sure we can get our grant money.
As
And,
you
I
all
don't
know,
have any-
interlocals are required to come before council.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Walters?
I move we approve the amendment as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walters and a second by Ms. Cleveland McGrath to approve the amendment as presented. Additional discussion? Mr. Hoagland?
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. No further business before the council. I'll adjourn tonight's meeting. Have a great night.